So the Canadian Grand Prix then. I think from my point of view, not a bang of a race, but what the hell was Lando Norris doing? There's plenty to talk about today. GB, what did you think of the race? Give us your race rating.
I liked it. I'll give it a solid 7 out of 10. I thought it was really good.
Come off it.
I'm interested to hear your POV here because look, there wasn't much overtaking on track, and I watched it all the way through with my girlfriend Carla. We sat through together, and she was engrossed pretty much all the way through, as was I. Okay, there wasn't too much overtaking on track, and not too many moments to watch there. But the strategy kept it really interesting. We've said it before: 2-stop plus races are always interesting strategy wise, and also as well, 3 cars, Mercedes, Red Bull, McLaren, were really, really close on pace. So yeah, I thought we got a decent race. 7 out of 10.
You must have had a really boring weekend. If this was the highlight of your weekend, mate, I feel for the rest of your weekend. I really do. Because I agree. Normally, we're going, give us wearing tyres, give us 2-3 stops, whatever. Absolutely. Normally, it'd be good. The cars are close. Like, we didn't have a runaway winner. We didn't have a dominant car. 3 different teams in the top 4. 4 different teams in the top 5 even. Like, in theory, a banger. In reality, I thought it was really boring. Because, yes, they were doing more pit stops, but like there was no real strategy variety. Not at the front anyway. We had a few people try 1-stops and stuff, like whatever, but no one did anything really that different on strategy to make it interesting. There was no real overtaking. There was no real comeback stories of like this person had an unbelievable fight for the. I just thought it had all the ingredients, but just didn't cook anything up. I don't know. I thought it was really, really odd. Obviously, with the exception of Lando Norris. We'll get on to him in just a second. But so for me, honestly, I think it's like a 3 out of 10. Like, honestly, I really didn't enjoy it. For me, I reckon it's the worst race of the season. I just didn't enjoy it. Like, I'm glad Lando smashes the back of his teammate at the end to give us at least something to talk about, because there's just nothing happened. What happened? Nothing happened. They all did the same strategy, and it was boring. No overtaking, no nothing. It was, and you know me, I'm a purist. I like it when it's just like, even if they're not battling side by side on track, if they're having a battle in the pit stops and for strategy and for tyre saving, I like it. But none of that was happening. Nothing's happened.
You know what? Before this, I genuinely was expecting you to come on the podcast and be like, "Love that." Strategy was all over the place. Teams didn't know what they were doing initially. We had the mix up with Leclerc and his team about Plan B, C, X, Y, Z. Like the teams were just trying to figure out what was going on with the tires. And you got a point there in terms of everyone did kind of follow the same trends. But then you had the likes of Lando starting on the hard tyre and a few mix-ups in there to at least give us a bit of a variety for, Lando to run long and then have fresher tyres later, and which obviously led to the scenes that we saw. So I don't really know what more we could wish for out of that race, to be honest, because
just a bit more variety, because like everyone in the top 4, every single one of them went medium, hard, and like within a couple of laps as well. I honestly was shocked that McLaren boxed Piastri as early as they did. I think they should have overcut by loads to try and get much fresher tyres. But they overcut by a couple of laps, and then had slightly fresher tyres. Like, it didn't do much.
I think what you're saying though is basically that the tyres. The tyres weren't good enough because the teams were so scared of the mediums. I mean, they were only doing 15 odd laps a maximum on them before they were completely gone. So in a 70-lap race, obviously that's pretty terrible. So I guess maybe the issue wasn't really. Maybe that was the issue is tyres, if anything, that we should have had a potentially. But then you wouldn't want to go harder on the tyres because then it turns into a 1-stop. I don't know.
Yeah, but this is what I mean. That's why it's weird, because it had all the ingredients, like the high wear and tyres and stuff. In theory, it should have been a great race, and it just wasn't. Everyone just did the same strategy. Like, normally, even if everyone does the same strategy, you get someone mixed up. You get someone running really long on X stint to be much quicker on the next stint, and they come out 10 seconds behind their rival, but they're catching them at a second a lap. And it's even if they're doing in theory on paper the same number of pit stops and the same ordering of the tyres, medium, hard. There's big variety there, but there was none of that. Like, all of the guys just all had the same pace pretty much. But,
okay, so in your 3 out of 10 race, who was your driver of the day then?
Driver of the day has to be Antonelli, doesn't it? Come on, it has to be Antonelli. Like, George Russell obviously had a basically flawless weekend. Like, absolute hats off to him. Honestly, we're kind of coming to expect that this season, though, of George. Like, he has been unbelievable this season, just consistently. at the absolute top of his game every single race. Unbelievable. George deserved to win that hands down. But Antonelli, a rookie, you know, bearing in mind what we're seeing from Red Bull and stuff like that, like so many second drivers struggling like mad, a rookie, before the safety car, he was only about less than 5 seconds back from the George Russell, who we're saying is the absolute top of his game. The 10th F1 race for Kimi Antonelli, he's not only on the podium, he's only 5 seconds back from a teammate who's doing unbelievable well. For me, it's not even close. Antonelli takes driver of the day hands down. Who was your driver of the day?
I'm not going to say the same as you because I may have been thinking Antonelli as well, but I'm going to go with, I think there are a few contenders and I will, again, Hulkenberg had another really good day today. Yeah. I am going to go with George Russell though. I don't think he put a foot wrong at any point. You can't underestimate the importance of tyre management, which we saw from Max pushing too hard at the start. Also, I think Alonso on the back of Hamilton pushed too hard and his tyres completely went early. So Russell just managed it so well, start to finish. When it looked like Max might just creep into his DRS and put him under pressure, George just then extended the gap and managed it really well. So I'll go with Russell, but I do agree with Antonelli because the key thing for me is that he clearly has pace and he's proven that already. Miami, he got that sprint pole. He's looked really quick. He's a really impressive debut season so far. But the key thing for Antonelli before today was that he just didn't seem to have a grasp on tire management. He would always kind of just overwork his tires and make mistakes, and then that would obviously hurt him as a stint went on and eventually result in a probably for him disappointing race result. Not today. You summed it up there. He did such a good job just managing the whole race. I think maybe it's a bit of a stepping stone for him. You know, yes, it's his first podium, but I feel like today, like I said, was a big learning curve maybe for him on tires. And if he can apply that for weekends coming up, maybe we're going to see some really good results from Antonelli. But I think, to be honest, even if you're a teammate of George Russell's at the moment with how consistent he is, if you're close to George Russell at the end of the race, you probably had a good race. So, yeah.
Like, how many times last season did we see Lewis Hamilton within 5 seconds of George Russell at the end of the race? Like, not as often as you would hope so. So, like, for Kimi to do that was unbelievable. As you said, on a high tyre wear circuit, he had to look after the tyres. That performance was just, to me, by far the best performance of the day. It's not even close. Like you said, special shout out to Hulkenberg again, 8th place, another 4 points for Sauber, unbelievable. Also, honestly, a special shout out, weirdly, to Yuki Tsunoda. We'll get to him. We've got another talking point him later. We need to get to Norris in a second. But I do want to give a shout out to Yuki Tsunoda because, yes, okay, still got knocked out in Q2, but was P11 much better than what we've seen from him. Not that far off Max, really, a few tenths. And then recovered well, you know, started back down there in 18th or so, I think, after the pit lane starts. And got to P12 on a day where clearly, you know, overtaking was difficult and stuff. There wasn't much strategy variety. So, again, decent, better race from Tsunoda. Better.
P12 and a Red Bull by the end. I'm not. There's no shout outs for UK. I mean, look, fine. You've gained some positions from the start, fine, but you're in a Red Bull. It is a rapid car. I'm not buying the whole, you know, it's just Max Verstappen because we've been through that many times. Its potential is clearly way better than P12, and Yuki just still has not got the hang of the car. So. Yeah, I mean, I P12, like, no points in the Red Bull. I don't know. If I'm Yuki, I'm kicking myself anytime I'm not scoring points. Like, even from the back of the grid in a Red Bull. Like, put it this way: if it was Max and he starts from the back, he's probably, I would say, he finishes maybe like 6th, 7th, 5th, maybe. Like, he's dragging that well into the points, good points. So
yeah, but what if Max Verstappen was driving a car that's only capable of 11th place on raw pace? You still think he'd get 5th or 6th? Absolutely not. He might get 9th maybe for Verstappen. So if we stay for Verstappen in that car, I know it's in theory the same car as good as Max, but in reality, clearly it's not, because we've had enough drivers have a go at that second car. It's clearly bad. So in that car that's only capable of, in theory, 11th place to get P12 from the back of the grid in a day that's difficult to overtake, I'm not saying it's a great performance. I'm saying it's an improved performance, and I want to see him have a clean weekend, and we'll get on to his red flag infringement in just a moment. But I want to talk about Lando Norris, because obviously I have been the Lando Norris cheerleading squad on this podcast. I've been a huge fan of him so far this season. But you know what? Obviously, a ginormous, stupid mistake. Quite incredible that it was the exact same thing McLaren did with Button and Hamilton all those years ago in 2011. But I'm going to buck a trend here, GB, and this will shock you. I've got a lot of respect for Lando. how often does a driver make a mistake like that, and no matter how obvious the mistake is, and come over the radio with all that pent-up energy, and then immediately go, my bad, that was my fault, I'm sorry, that was stupid. We never see that, ever, ever, ever. Because they're all pent up, because all the adrenaline, they go, oh, what's he doing? Why did he come in? Oh, he hit me out, what's going on? And afterwards they go, oh yeah, sorry, obviously that was my fault, my bad, once they've calmed down. The fact that immediately on the radio it was like, sorry guys, that was stupid of me, I don't know what I was doing, like, complete 100% on me, like, sorry. I was laughing at him, I'll be honest, when it happened. When I heard that radio, I was like, do you know what? Respect, fair play. You made a mistake, you called yourself out on it. Thankfully, he didn't also take Piastri out of the race. We'd have been looking at a very different conclusion here if that was the case. Thankfully, that didn't happen. He only took himself out. He apologised, realised his mistake. It was a stupid mistake. I've got respect for it. I really have. George, what did you think of it?
You know what I was more disappointed in? And funnily enough, I don't really echo those views because, well, fair enough, Lando owned it, but he had to. It was not even debatable. It was clearly his fault. I was more frustrated and disappointed with Lando at the chicane because he was ahead of Piastri. Yes, he was on the outside, and obviously Piastri was never going to yield that, of course. I would still rather Lando be like, look, I'll switch these roles around. Imagine Lando's on the inside and Piastri's ahead, just like his front tires are ahead, front wings ahead, going into that final chicane. Guarantee you Piastri brakes later and he forces into that chicane. I guarantee you Piastri does not back out to Lando in that situation. And I was really disappointed with Lando on the outside that he just, he braked so much earlier than Piastri, just allowed him to go deep. Yes, he set up the exit, but there's never a long enough straight, even with slipstream, into turn one to really go for a move because, as Piastri did, cover off the inside and it's GG. So I was really disappointed that Lando. We spoke about this at Miami with Max. He's just not being assertive enough in the right moments. And I would have liked to have seen him say, right, if you're not going to leave me space, if you're gonna dive bomb this one and whatever, you're going to missile this into the chicane, then we crash. I would rather Lando be like, I'm braking late, I'm ahead, this is my corner, I'm the quicker driver, and go for it. It's a mentality thing with Lando, I think, and I think also, to be fair, you touched on it there with his reaction. It probably shows as well with the fact that he's just sometimes quite defeatist with his reactions and interviews. And I don't know. I want to see him more punchy. I want to see him more assertive and aggressive if he's going to go for a title.
You know what? We always say F1 is a team sport because it fundamentally is, and yet we get a lot of selfishness in F1. We get a lot of, I'm the fast driver, let me through, team orders, what's he doing, idiot. I actually thought it was a breath of fresh air the way they acted on track because they were the perfect team players. And that was exactly what McLaren need. Okay, they're almost certainly going to win the Constructors' Championship, but they also, one of them wants to win the Drivers' Championship, and they both know if they're at loggerheads and if they're crashing into each other all the time, they might allow Max to come and win the Drivers' Championship because he's not that far off still. So actually, I had a lot of respect for Lando backing out of that because normally I would agree, George, go on, give it a go. Why are you backing out? Not in that corner. Come on. If you go side by side, the guy on the outside is going off track. We have seen it before where Lando goes for a stupid move, goes off track and then just moans over the radio. It was the right decision. He tried it. He had a really good go. It was a beautiful send as well. Got to be said in the hairpin. Again, respectful, making sure that he didn't hit him and got it stopped well enough and etc. And then obviously this Piastri got a switch back. I just thought that was really respectful racing. I think we should see more of that within teams in particular. It was good, respectful racing. It's a corner you can't go side by side through, so he didn't even try it. He just thought, you know what, the finishing here is better than crashing out. Even better than that is better than DNFing both cars because I've been an idiot, and then maybe Oscar does the same thing to me in the future. Live to fight another day. I actually had a lot of respect for it, so I completely disagree with you on that. I'm convinced if it was Max Verstappen versus Piastri, copy and paste where the cars are, Max does not back out of that, and Max comes out in front as well. Maybe they crash, maybe they do, but if they crash, it's probably going to be on Piastri for not being ahead and, eating up the inside. But Verstappen 100% breaks late there and holds
holds that position. But
do you know what's interesting is not only do I agree, but B, I think in that situation, Oscar actually breaks earlier and lets Max have it.
Yeah, well, fair point. I mean, but again, that then just feeds into my point about mentality. Like, I think, I just feel like Oscar and Max have got the beating of Lando before they've even stepped in the car. Like, they just, it's almost like he's just an easy book to read. But it was a weird mistake from Lando because, look, if we strip that back, fine, Lando's gone passive. He's avoided contact. He's also got a good exit. It's allowed him to slipstream and line up Piastri. Piastri was never going to give him the inside. He obviously held his hands up and said it was his mistake. But I just don't know what he was trying to do. It's just like the gap was never there. Like, why would you not go to the outside and again just try and brake late to get the inside for turn 2? I don't know. It's just a real weird one, and not really uncharacteristic of his season so far, is it? Lando's had some good moments and some good pace in multiple races, but just too many mistakes. And obviously today, how much did that cost him? Like 10 points, I think. P5, I believe he was 10, 12 points. So yeah, pretty huge, really, when you think now the gap to Piastri, I think, is 22 points in the championship. So, that can be the type of moment that at the end of the season we look back on and we're like, these fine margins, that's what's costing you a title. So
yeah, it was weird. I was actually, because you know me, I'm now a Piastri fan these days. So I was actually, I actually saw it and I was like, defend, Oscar, defend. Like, why is he not defending? It almost looked like he was going to give him the inside. So I kind of get why Lando thought that might have happened. But basically, Oscar did the classic thing of just being the coolest head in the world and just took his normal line, basically, like, he's not close enough, like, whatever. Like, by the time he gets close enough to me, there won't be a car's width. I'm all good. He didn't feel the need to, like, dart right over to the inside and, like, be really defensive. He was just like, it's fine. And he did judge it right, only just, but he did judge it right. And yeah, it's just, I think when it happened between Hamilton and Button in 2011, at least it was raining. There was some spray. So it's like harder to judge. The fact that it was bone dry and it just drove into the back of him. It's like, bro, come off it. It wasn't. I did laugh quite a lot. It is hilarious. It was so bad. But
was that literally when it happened? Did you literally just laugh?
I laughed. Yeah, I did laugh. I may have called Lando some names that were not positive towards him as a driver and laughed a lot. Yes, I thought it was hilarious because it was just so bad. It was like, bro, like you said, that gap was never there. What are you doing? It's not like Oscar's moved late. There's no extenuating circumstances. Oscar's done his normal line and Lando's just driven into the back of him, DNF'd himself. It's hilarious. It is funny because it's that bad. And as you said, go around the outside, send it, brake late. Worst case scenario, you take the run off and you give the position back. It doesn't matter. But you try that. Like, it's just funny. But anyway, that's Lando Norris. But let's move on. We mentioned earlier Yuki Tsunoda, who, of course, qualified P11, started at the back of the grid thanks to a 10-place grid drop for a practice incident. Now, we've seen this previously in Monaco. Can't recall who was it, Behrman, who overtook under red flags in Monaco. And there we were like, well, we analysed it and we're like, actually, he barely had a chance to react to the red flag. And it would have been more dangerous for him to jam on the brakes when the car was crawling out of the way. That was a silly decision, but whatever. This time, the red flag was clearly visible. Like, Tsunoda knew there was a red flag. But it was a damaged car. It was Oscar Piastri's damaged car that was, again, going very slowly, very out of the way. Tsunoda came out afterwards and said, like, so what do they want me to do? Sit behind a damaged car and just hope that I don't get hit in the face by some debris from it? Because, again, that sounds more dangerous than overtaking under red flag. Like you said before, GB, fundamentally, obviously, you've got to be very careful with flags. You've got to be going slow. It's because it's a big incident on track. Obviously, you shouldn't be overtaking, but is it overtaking to gently go past a very damaged car? I would argue it's safer to go past him in that instance, and that's what red flags are all about, is just driving as safely as you possibly can. I thought this was, again, a ridiculous decision under red flags. I know rules are rules, but I would rather overtake in that situation. GB, I know you disagreed with me previously in Monaco. Did you see this, and what did you think?
No, but I didn't see it. But obviously, I saw. I knew what was going on with Yuki's grid drop and what had happened, and it's kind of deja vu with Monaco, not in the similarities of the incident itself, but just in the lack of common sense applied from stewards by the sound of it. And I really don't like that. Again, I'm going to keep banging that drum. every single time this comes up, the fact that we have different sets of stewards each weekend, and it means that we get some decisions where they're maybe a bit more informed and they're maybe applying a bit of common sense in the scenario in the certain circumstances, which, despite how big the rule book is, it can never perfectly cover every possible scenario, right? And then you get other weekends where they're just like, nah, by the rule book, we don't care. You've overtaken. We're giving you a massive penalty. So, I know when we debated this in Monaco, we were talking about the Stroll impeding Leclerc as well, and him getting a less harsh penalty versus, I think, Behrman when he got the red flag infringement. And I agreed with that ruling of by the rule book, it's overtaking of the red flags clearly should be prohibited massively. But yeah, I'm with you. Like it just sounds like it's just a complete lack of common sense from people making the decisions, and not much more to say than that from me.
Well, speaking of the stewards, let's talk about Derek Warwick, who, by the way, just before this, Steve went, "Who's that?" And I went, "Right." That's not a good start. And he Googled it. I went, "What? What do you mean? An F1 driver from the 80s or whatever there is? What are you talking about?" I was like, "Bro, you got an F1 podcast. You've got no idea what's going on. You're the worst." Anyway, Derek Warwick these days is known as a steward. He's one of the regular people who gets called up as a steward. He stewards probably about a third of the races every year and has done for many years, GB. You're welcome. But this weekend he was, I guess, suspended from his duties. He was supposed to be stewarding in Canada and was suspended from his duties, and they had to get in someone to steward in his place remotely, which doesn't happen very often, if ever. Now, the reason for this is basically the same reasons that Johnny Herbert was binned off from stewarding before. He was selling quotes to gambling companies to be used in various publications. Now, obviously on the face of it, you go, that's not a great thing to do. They apparently get 300 quid a day for stewarding. It's nothing. They're not really paid. A lot of people go, "Oh, yeah, these guys don't need the money," but maybe they do. Who are you to judge? So, fine, you got to earn money somewhere. Gambling companies got a lot of money. If they're going, "Hey, do you want 10 grand to give us some quotes?" I don't know about you, GB. That sounds great to me, whether they're a gambling company or not. So, I don't think...
Are you not doing that already?
I wish. I don't think fundamentally it's a bad thing. I do think, though, where you got to draw the line is I just do think, regardless of any of that, if you are a regular steward, I just think you can't do any media stuff. That just has to be the agreement. I'm a steward, so I can't be a presenter. I can't be a pundit. I can't go and give my opinion on something to the press or whatever. You just can't do it. It's something that should just be not allowed. You don't see referees in football after a football match interviewing and go, "Oh yeah, I thought Ronaldo, to be honest, I thought that foul was pretty outrageous. It was broke the guy's leg, didn't he? What an idiot!" Imagine that. That'd be insane. I
want to pause you here because what was the ref's name? I'm going to kick myself for forgetting his name because this was all over this went viral. This did happen. This literally happened in football, within the last year or very, very recently. And it was Jurgen Klopp, Liverpool manager or ex-Liverpool manager now. There was a video that was leaked of a ref literally on the boozer with his mate, literally just beers in their hand or whatever, clearly quite drunk, and the referee was just basically just swearing about Klopp and saying how much of a joke he was, and he's always moaning, blah blah blah, and his mate was basically recorded it and leaked that for whatever reason. So
but that's
came
not
out.
comparable. That's behind closed doors with a few drinks amongst friends. Say what you want. I'm not saying they should never say anything. Of course, they're going to go home to their wife and give their opinion on incidents as well. That's not an issue. It's a very different thing doing it in public, with a mic in your face, knowing you're doing it. That's not really comparable. It's very different. So. Yeah, it's a weird situation that I don't really understand why we're not paying the stewards properly. I think we should be paying them properly. That's something we brought up before, and they should be. But also, it's not really that clear why he was suspended. I mean, on the face of it, they shouldn't be doing that. But as far as I gather, they said he was suspended for unauthorized comments or something like that. But it seems to be that it's not fundamentally because he talked to them. It was because he was discussing the incidents and stuff like that. He didn't say anything that was really bad. He didn't call a driver a name or he basically just said that talked about the Verstappen incident and stuff, just gave his opinion. It was a pretty normal opinion. We probably get stronger opinions right here on the Downforce Debrief podcast. Mm-hmm. It was fine. It was literally fine. Apparently I learned this looked at Twitter replies. This is a me problem. But I did do that. And apparently he's made sort of race jokes about Verstappen in the past, which is a little bit odd. and apparently owns a Honda dealership. And there's literally the famous saying is, we win on a Sunday, sell cars on the Monday. So, like, there's definitely some bigger issues there of why he could have been suspended. For some reason, they decided giving your opinion for some money to a gambling company was worth drawing the line. It's a bit strange, but I do fundamentally agree. I don't think they should do it in any media. GB, this is probably all new to you. Welcome to 2025, mate. What did you think?
Thanks, man. I think the most shocking thing from what you said is that stewards being paid 300 quid a day. I mean, like, that's what does that mean? Is it they just turn up for the 3 days on the F1 weekend, they're paid 300 for each day, and then that's it, on to a different team?
Pretty much. That's the rumour, that they're paid maybe that, and then presumably expenses as well. They might get business class flight out, but they're not really paid properly.
Look, I'm not going to fine whatever. I'll go with your opinion on the Derek Warwick stuff, because clearly I'm not educated enough on that bit. But clearly we have a much wider big issue with stewarding. I did not know that they were paid as little as £300 a day. Yeah, I mean you hit the nail on the head that for people you can't live off that kind of money unless you're getting £300 every single day. It's almost laughable when you look at the amount of money in Formula One. I know this is driver salary is an extreme example, but still, like, there's such a disparity of wealth clearly spread in F1. So it's not a poor sport. How the hell are we not paying our stewards a decent amount of money, using a whole different set of stewards each weekend? I mean, straight off the bat for me, that says, well, then are they really going to care that much about it? And then if they don't care that much about it, are they really going to be like, unbiased with every decision, or that, I don't know. It doesn't sit right with me. And I think, why are we not putting a centralized team in place, paying them actual proper salaries for a year to do their jobs properly? And, like I said, just have a central team that covers every race weekend. And maybe you have some stewards that rotate or whatever within that team, but you just have, one management hierarchy that looks over the same bunch of stewards, and they make consistent, informed decisions as a unit. It baffles me. Unless I'm missing something here that maybe you can pick up on, Alex, but it baffles me why this system is in place. And I've been baffled with this for years as well, since Abu Dhabi and before 2021 and before. So yeah, it's just bizarre.
Yeah, I mean, there isn't really an answer. It is just a silly system. It's a voluntary, effectively I think they do call it a voluntary role. So I don't know if the £300 a day is like that might be for expenses. I'm not too sure, but it is just, it's silly. It's a silly system. And again, they're just FIA once again showing themselves in a bad light, aren't they, by suspending this guy for this one race weekend, for making some comments when they're not paying him well enough, and for seemingly the comments not being that bad, and other stuff he's done that you could argue was worse. It's just a weird situation. But in the end, it doesn't seem to have affected the race weekend. I do think we broadly get consistent steward decisions these days, broadly speaking. Obviously, you can analyse, this one was different and this one was different, but like, it's not like we get outrageously different decisions week on week. Like, we just the red flag stuff we mentioned a minute ago. Like, they were both wrong decisions, but they were consistent with each other at least. So they just need to pay them properly, as you said. Just pay them properly, and then they don't need to go to these people and give the quotes, and pay them properly and say, look, but you can't do any media work. None of this Johnny Herbert also going to be a pundit business. You're a referee. You can't just be also giving your opinion on stuff when you're the one deciding the penalties, because it's just wrong. So. But anyway, we're going to move on to something else, which GB probably hasn't heard of. No, GB. Fred Vasseur. You know who that guy is?
Oh, that's the Alpine team principal, isn't it?
Yeah, you got it. Very good. So Fred Vasseur, obviously the Ferrari team principal. The rumours are, this is in the Italian media, who, as far as I can gather, work a little bit like a mafia of speaking things into existence. Apparently there's some rumours that Fred Vasseur's, gonna get the chop and yada yada yada, which again I think is them trying to make it happen. But it's just silly. Like, Hamilton's come out and said, like, what? The clerk said, like, what? Brundle's come out and said, like, what? I don't really see, like.
Are those direct quotes as well?
I think so. Yeah, they're probably at some point in their interview just said the word what. So I think they are direct quotes. Yeah, I think I've nailed it. It's just silly. Like, okay, Ferrari aren't where they'd like to be this season. That's fair to say. But like, they've been doing better the last couple of seasons. They've been less of a shambles. We still make jokes about Ferrari strategy and things like that, but actually, that sort of thing has been reduced, as far as I can see. I think they're a better team since Fred Vasseur joined them. He lured no other than Lewis Hamilton there. I know some people would argue, oh yeah, but he's terrible. Sainz would have been better in that seat. And you are right. Up to this moment, you are right. We'll see what happens longer term. And for the brand, I think it would be a very different story. I suspect they're selling more Ferraris now because they've got Lewis Hamilton there than Carlos Sainz would sell. So I just think these rumours are crazy. I think this isn't football. We don't just sack people and get a new bloke in every couple of weeks until suddenly you start winning. You've got to give him a time. And I think this might be his third season in Ferrari. And everyone who says anything about him that knows what they're talking about all say, yeah, he's really good. And I don't really see why we're even talking about it. Even both drivers have come out and said the same thing. Like, no, we very much stand by Fred. Like, Fred is great. Like, do not bin off Fred. So yeah, apparently he doesn't speak Italian. So I'm wondering if that's what's got the Italian media's go. He's a Frenchman who speaks English and French and not Italian. So I wonder if that's upset them. There was some rumours of a cultural divide, but I don't know if that's true.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm quite surprised at that actually. But yeah, I think I don't know. But when you started mentioning this topic, I was thinking to myself, football managers.
Who's this guy?
Straight away.
Who do you mean? Who's Fred?
I was thinking of football managers because I do feel like there's a big turnover, a frequent turnover of managers in F1 team principals. I think as you look at Alpine. I mean, again, extreme example, Alpine. It's changed every 10 minutes. But like Ferrari I don't think they've got a history of sticking with a team principal for a long time, as far as I can remember. I think they've had, they didn't really stick with Binotto that long. And I was thinking, I'm a fan of Fred for sure. I don't think he should go. I think I agree with you. I do think he's made them a better team. He also don't forget he played a key part in bringing Hamilton to Ferrari as well. But then I think about the stick and that Binotto used to get with his Ferrari for the strategy team and that side of things. And I think, has that really changed? I would argue yes. I mean, this season so far, Ferrari's strategy has been pretty solid. Like pit stops, very, very solid as well. I think as a team, they seem to be well drilled, well gelled. But there's still question marks around them. There still are the same kind of old errors and mistakes that creep in. I'm talking like strategy still as well. You look at Hamilton's strategy today, for example, just was never the right decision with where they boxed him and where they brought him out. But yeah, anyway, so I mean, I can maybe understand why there's been questions asked. I also don't know whether it's just a quiet time or something and people wanted to stir the rumor pot. But I did hear the interviews from Leclerc and Hamilton on it, and unsurprisingly, they were obviously as confused as most of us as to wait, what? Since when was Fred Vasseur under pressure? So
they did say the word what? You confirming they did say what?
yeah, there you go. Yeah, you nailed that. I didn't hear Brundle say it though, so we'll have to go back and watch that.
Okay.
But yeah, no. So I mean, I think I guess it's a topic worth discussing. From my side, it's almost a non-issue. It's just, why would they get rid of him? Like literally, why? Like who would they bring in that would make their team better right now? It just wouldn't make sense. And
yeah, long live Fred Vasseur. That's what we're saying. It definitely feels like an Italian media thing, like weird. But anyway. Well, that's it for F1 for us for this week. But we have got an off-topic to discuss this week, and we will. We're recording this at 11 p.m. at night, and I want to go to sleep before midnight, so we'll keep it short. Creator Series, of course, the series that me and GB race in, basically a creator-focused league, and there's been a bit of controversy this week, which viewers may not be aware of actually, because I think a lot of it's been behind the scenes. Yeah. So basically, we did a race yesterday, which was a rainbow tyre challenge, which 100% distance race. You have to use all 5 tyre compounds, soft, medium, hard, and inters and wets. No matter the conditions, you have to use all 5 for at least 3 laps. But this time they decided to turn the safety car off, because previously when we ran it, I recall a race in Abu Dhabi where we ran the same challenge, but there was basically an early safety car and everyone just went and got rid of their inters and wets. And then the rest of the race was basically a normal race. It just didn't really work for safety cars. So they decided to switch them off this time, and all the drivers hated it. From where I'm sitting, and if you haven't seen the highlights yet, I won't completely spoil the result. But from where I'm sitting, I enjoyed the race. I am a bit of a purist. I like strategy. I'm definitely on the more extreme end of that. There's a lot of people in there that race just for TikTok clips and stuff. So we're at very different ends of the spectrum. Personally, though, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really good race. It kept me really engaged all throughout. The word boring didn't remotely cross my mind. Fantastic. All my viewers seem to think the same as far as I can gather. We'll see what the YouTube comments say when the video goes out. But yeah, really positive. But seemingly, according to the private Discord chat that we're all part of, pretty much all the drivers hated it. They all thought it was really boring, terrible, never switch safety cars off ever again. We've tried it, never do that. Like the worst race of all time. Like everyone hated it. They all wouldn't shut up about it, to be honest. And I'm interested to hear if that's a view shared by their viewers. Obviously, a streamer influences their viewers' opinions, but I would be interested to see what the viewers thought of it from other people's point of views. But yeah, big debate. From me, I thought it was good. Everyone else hated it. GB, did you find it boring? What are your thoughts on all this malarkey that about 4,000 messages have been exchanged in private?
We can definitely debate this, but I'm mostly going to agree with you because I'm not. It's not all drivers. I pretty much jumped in at the start of the drivers chat saying that I actually enjoyed the race. It clearly wasn't the best race. I finished P6, by the way, starting on pole. I had a bad result. I knew my pace was good, so it's not like I can sit here and be like, oh yeah, but I had a really good race, that's why I enjoyed it, so just because that is sometimes a view that some drivers had of like, oh yeah, but he's saying that because he won or he got podium or whatever. So for context, I got a bad result, and yet I actually quite enjoyed it. I got my chat to decide pretty much when I boxed nearly every time. I had them fully involved. I had them even going to Maraki's chat, telling him what lap I was going to box because we were working together at one point. So it was really interesting. I was, throughout the whole thing, I was like, oh, where's Alex? What strategy is he on? And, it quickly became clear that some were doing wets at the end, some were doing wets at the start, me being in the latter. So yeah, it was a really interesting mix-up. One thing I would say is I do understand why people are annoyed about it because the gaps were crazy. I mean, I finished P6 and the gap to Tiamat Marduk was like 30 seconds. It was in P7. Like that's insane. And your gap as well in P1, I think you had a 10-second lead on P2, even with that's after your penalties as well. So it depends what angle you look at it from. I think from the view of strategy and the wild card, which don't forget was all tire challenge. From my view was if you turn safety cars on in a wild card where it's use all the tires, it's ridiculous because then people will just do the wets and inters under safety cars and it will just be gimmicky anyway because you're just waiting for one to come out to then just reset the whole grid. So I disagree that we should add safety cars to this personally. I understand why people are saying they should be added because, for them, it was a nothing race. They were nowhere. You had the likes of Infratic doing donuts halfway through and giving up. So, I get it. But I agree with you. I enjoyed the race. I think it was the right decision. I think what we should be sat here saying is not because for viewers' context, the main debate was whether we turn safety cars. We always turn safety cars on because off killed it. My argument was we shouldn't be talking about turning safety cars on if we're doing this wild card. For me, it should be off. What we should be talking about is, do we just bin this wild card off? Was it a good wild card? Because for me, the all-tire challenge was good, but if you turn safety cars on for an all-tire wild card, I just think it's dead. I'd rather just do a normal race. I don't care. Like,
completely agree.
Just give us. We're going to have safety car in the normal race anyway to close it up. So who cares? Like,
because the entire point is if you use all 5 tires, you're making it about strategy. Particularly if you're forcing people to run. We did have a bit of rain at the end, so it didn't quite work like this. But normally, you're often forcing people to run inters or wets on a bone dry track. So like a weird thing. When do you take that? It's tactical. It's strategic. That is the fundamental point of the wild card. So then to bring safety cars into it, it basically it brings more luck into it, and then just makes it just basically there's going to be a safety car at some point. Make sure you get the inters and wets out of the way early, so that later on when it's a safety car, you have a normal race, and it's just the wild card doesn't really exist anymore. So. Yes, we're clearly in agreement. I think, I guess, to give a bit of flesh to people's complaints about it, I think obviously the gaps are a big issue. I think a lot of people said it was just 70 laps of basically just time trialing on my own. It was just really boring, and I wasn't around anybody, and there was no one to catch, and yada yada yada. And that was basically their argument against it. And I do get that. I do think Creator Series. Look, I'll be honest. I think Creator Series grid gap. Field spread is what I'm looking for. Close enough. Is too big for a normal race. I think everyone says most of the drivers say we need safety cars because the grid's got to be close. That's just bunching people up every now and again. The grid is still, the reason there's big gaps is because there is a lot of field spread. It is a thing. Most leagues wouldn't have this level of field spread because it's Creator Series. You don't get people in because of the speed. You get them in because of their creator credentials. So that is what it is. And I think there's almost a reluctance to accept that, I think, honestly speaking, amongst Creator Series drivers, that just is a thing. Sometimes people are a second and a half a lap off the pace of the top guys. Stuff's going to spread out. I personally am not of the view that just throwing a safety car every 15 laps and just mashing those drivers back together makes it any more interesting than turning them off completely, because it's still the same fundamental thing. Yeah, okay, you get a couple of laps where the cars are mashed together, great. But then, because it's also, there's a lot of bottlers in there as well, let's be honest. A lot of people that will get damaged or have a spin and they're like, oh yeah, but I want a safety car to make my race better. Don't spin them, bro. Like, I know that's easy for me to say. I'm a very consistent driver. I know I'm on the other extreme end. I get it. But like that, welcome to racing. If you're Lando Norris and you smash into the back of your teammate and you DNF yourself, okay, DNF is a bit extreme, but obviously you wouldn't DNF from that in the game. Let's say you just go with self-wing damage. You don't normally get a safety car that allows you to still get a podium. Normally that means that Lando Norris would have actually finished. If he didn't damage his wheel, he'd have finished in P10. Welcome to racing. You made a mistake, take the punishment. That's what racing is all about for me. And what the Creator Series drivers like to do is have lots of get out of jail free cards, which, look, I'm actually not that against it. I'm not that against it because I understand. I am the sort of person that likes strategy. I like long races. I'm trying to make a stream and a YouTube video. That's my priority. They're long form pieces of content. And I thought that race is fantastic for those. If you're the sort of person that's a TikToker and you're trying to produce clips, you're trying to produce amazing racing, or overtaking somebody on, let's say it's the last lap and you're arriving in front, he's on wet tires on a dry track and you've got 7 seconds to catch, you catch him and you get him to the line. That's obviously an amazing TikTok clip, right? I get it. I do get it. And that is where the divide comes, really, is that not everyone creates the same content. I think it was you actually, GB, that said this in the chat, that like from my point of view it was good, but from your point of view, because we're not all making the same content, it was bad. So there's always going to be a difference of opinion for that.
Yeah. I wanted to jump in and say I wanted to build on this exact point that's the key takeaway. And we've touched on this before, and it frustrates me a little bit that kind of, I do feel like sometimes we go in circles in the drivers chat, because this has definitely been clarified like literally 5, 6, 7 seasons ago, about people's idea of content, including their audiences and viewers' ideas of what they like to watch. They will vary. Your viewers and you will prefer a more strategic, different kind of race than someone else's towards the middle of the pack or the back of the grid. And that's just the way it is. You're spot on when you say that there's clearly a big pace difference across the grids. I would say that these days there's a really good probably tight gap between the top like maybe 6 or 7 drivers. I do think that it's quite close when it's everyone on their pace or on their day. So I think that's good for it. And I think there are moments where safety cars can definitely help, for sure. In the past I was an advocate for people being allowed to cause intentional safety cars until it kind of probably been abused way too much. And now I've gone the other way, where I'm like, let's just have natural safety cars and not, no intentional stuff. That's a different topic. I think the underlying point is that people just have different perceptions of what is a good race for them. Like for me, I want a nice blend of a bit of action, a decent bit of action, hopefully, some good pace, some good strategy, and hopefully a good result. If it's not a good result, I can still have a good race if it's some interesting strategy, some good viewer interaction, and some good battles on track, which fortunately I did get at Canada because of the thing with Meraki and Karim. Still, strategy-wise, I thought that wildcard was good. If we'd have had a safety car, I'm convinced that I would have not enjoyed that race, as much as I did. I'm not saying that was a banger. For context, I think you said, I don't know what your exact words were, but I think you did say you really liked it. I didn't really like it. It definitely was not up there in my favorite races, but I didn't dislike it. I finished the race and I was like, I felt good. I got out of the rig, I felt good, and I was like, you know what? I feel like that was good content. I got some stuff out of it. My viewers were engaged. I did actually ask my chat at the end, W or L, was it good? And nobody said L. So again, I know my viewers will be biased because of my own views, but yeah, I thought that was quite interesting. I thought there might at least be a mix because of some driver negativity elsewhere. So yeah, and I think as well, I wanted to touch on that what I'm disappointed with too is drivers that completely give up in those kind of events where, like, yeah, you get a bit of bad luck and there's no safety cars or something, and you literally just leave and go do other things like halfway through the race. It's just like come on, like. I don't feel like it's very respectful to the series. I think Razin Chai disconnected on lap 9, and someone like punted his AI into the wall. Just a bit of like silliness. It wasn't like anything crazy. And by the time Razin rejoined, he was basically screwed. His race was completely like almost done at that point with no safety cars, of course. He drove until the end, till lap 70. So, you know, a lot of respect for that. Respect the series.
I don't think he did. I saw him AI controlled on the last lap.
Really? I thought he did. You sure? Okay.
Well,
I thought he did.
He was AI controlled when I saw him on the last lap. That he may have just paused briefly. That's all I know. So I've got no idea.
Okay, maybe I'm waffling then. But anyway, like at the end of the day, yeah, I think it's just need to have a bit of respect for the series and other people's races, and yeah, I made a few different points there, but yeah, I agree with you.
I guess this brings us on to what the solution is. So I think that there's lots of solutions being bandied around. One which is I'm pretty certain is just designed to cause some stir up some drama. Not drama, to get people thinking. Thought provoking is what I'm looking for, and that's to put half the grid on custom setups, half the grid on default setups. I think we can all agree that would obviously suck. I've got to say, I'm actually very much for closing the grid up. I think the race we did previously when we all ran default setups, the grid was actually closer and it was much better for it. Although I tend to be at the front, and I tend to have an advantage over a majority of the field. I'm not trying to maintain that advantage. I'm keen for the grid to be closer. So something like default setups could work. I'm keen for a realistic performance cars, certainly as a wild card, maybe even permanently. So it's reverse championship order cars, so whoever's leading the championship gets a McLaren, and whoever's last in the championship gets a, I don't know, Sauber or whoever the slowest car is in the game. I'd be keen for that. I think the field spread is enough. That could genuinely work. Like, my point is, I'm keen for stuff to close the grid up. I think we just need to be careful, obviously, to not make it just too ridiculous. One key point, though, that I want you to ask you about GB is, for me, and I never really understood the objection to this, for me, the solution is, if everyone's saying we have to have a safety car, at least one per race, to mash the grid back together, otherwise it's terrible. That's basically the conclusion of what everyone's saying. Then do 2 races, do 2 50% races, and hand out half points in each or something. So then you are then mashing the grid back together. Not only that, but you're having 2 separate strategic battles. You're also then allowing a restart. So if someone has a terrible, because if they DNF, a safety car isn't going to save them. If they DNF on lap 2, that's it. All that build-up was for nothing. But at least if there's another 50% race to go, yes, they have to wait 45 minutes for it, but it's still coming. That's then better. To me, that is the perfect solution. I never really understood why everyone's so keen to have 100% distance races, but is adamant that we have to have some safety cars, which to me takes the strategic element out of 100% distance races, which makes 100% distance races pointless.
Yeah.
That's my view on it. What do you think?
For your point on safety cars, I completely get that, and I don't disagree with that. I think there's a wider issue there, and I'm on the fence of not wanting to do 250s unless it's like the one-off double header weekends, which is a really nice kind of like refresher and something different. 2 things being, as you know, as a content creator, but for viewers and listeners, you may not know this. We see a big drop in numbers in viewership at the end of, in the breaks between races. There's naturally a breakup. It pulls people away and distracts people, and it has a big influence on people's numbers. That just is a fact. That's always been the same.
Don't safety cars do the same thing? If we're talking about basically catering to TikTok creators who just want clips, doing another race start is better because streaming clearly isn't the priority for those guys.
yes, it does, but it's not as bad as completely like back to the main menu. Like, because it's not just like, oh, we've done a 50, now we're starting a 50. Like, there's a decent, you got your interviews and you're sitting in the lobby and everything, and your formation lap and whatever. So it is longer than the safety car, but at least in the safety car you're in the race. The second thing as well, which I experienced this because I won. Was it Monza? It was Monza, part of a doubleheader weekend in last season 9, whenever it was. It was a doubleheader weekend, Monza and Imola. I won Monza. It put me to the back at Imola where I got damage and whatever, bad race. And I came away from that just like, I don't feel like I've won a race. I'm not the only one to think this. It just means it just doesn't feel special. Like, it does feel really nice when you get a result in 100% race, or whatever. It doesn't need to be like a win or a podium. You could be a P15 pace driver, and maybe you've got maybe you've got like a P7 or something. It takes away that special feeling of the 100% race, and I know for sure other viewers do share this view that it's not as special to watch the race as a result, because you've got two completely separate races. So look, I'm not like, I don't disagree with your point on safety cars, but I think that's why there's a wider issue around splitting it to 250s, and why, because we have discussed this before as drivers, and I think that kind of is what people end up agreeing on, is it's probably like for the overall permanent format, it's probably not the way.
Okay, yeah, honestly, fair points. I do think most of those do apply to safety cars as well as restarts, but they're less extreme versions of all of those points. So it's completely fair. I think for me, though, it's actually less of an issue on this game because Dirty is so much stronger and overtaking so much harder. On last year's game, I didn't feel more rewarded for winning a 100% distance race, because normally it wasn't a 100% distance race. It was a 95% distance of nothing that doesn't matter, and then a 5-lap sprint. And that, it was just like, especially if like you've been leading. Let's say I was leading by 10 seconds with 5 laps to go, safety car. Because I've done a great strategy that allowed me to lead by 10 seconds, I haven't got any tyres left. Some bloke who's just down in P8, I'm looking at you, Ben, saved tyres for this eventuality, knowing it was going to happen because it always happens, and then wins the race. Like, to me, he's won a 5-lap race because he's got all in for the 5-lap race. And if it wasn't a 5-lap race, he'd get P13. As in, if there wasn't a late safety car, he'd get P13. But because there was, oh, great, oh, you'll get a podium and you win, well done. I think that detracts massively from the feeling of winning a 100% distance race. For me, the race that we did yesterday in Creator Series was my best race I've ever done in Creator Series. It was my best performance. It felt amazing, really good. When those sort of things happen, even if you go from 10th to 1st in 5 laps, like, yeah, okay, that's some great content. But like, when you were 13th and a minute off the pace before that, all you've done really there is got unlucky. Like, that's all that's really happened. So I think that detracts from the result of the 100% distance races. But, must be said, F125 is not F124. It's a lot harder now to do those sort of strategies. I've now done it in 2 out of 3 races where I've literally not pit under a late safety car and stayed out on worn tyres and still managed to hold on to win the race. So that point is probably more moot now, to be fair, on F125. But yeah, honestly, though, just to conclude down, fair points on the 250s. I think I agree. I'm still a fan of it. I'm just really just trying to think of solutions to people's problems of trying to mash the grid together without completely getting rid of strategy. I'm with you. I'm almost at a bit of a loss in terms of what to suggest, because I would like to see future races be 100% race format, no intentional safety cars. And if we do have a race where we've got a 5-lap sprint at the end because someone's unfortunately just had a complete moment and snapped it into the wall, that's racing. Fair enough. We can accept that, because that's obviously not going to happen every race. So if that happens and someone gets ridiculously lucky on strategy because they've somehow managed to, plan their race around that, then fair play to them. But I agree. I think the way the races run currently, I think most viewers agree at this point. I think a lot of drivers agree that the whole intentional safety car thing gets dull. The whole safety car thing in general gets dull.
when it's natural safety cars, I'm okay with it, even if it shafts me, whatever. It is what it is.
I agree.
It's not that person's fault. And yeah, exactly. I think that happened at Silverstone. I think I did get quite unfortunate with the safety car then, but again, it was Punju that crashed, and he just binned it. It's fine. It's whatever. You're not going to get annoyed about that. So yeah, I agree. I think it'd be really interesting to hear viewers and listeners' comments, because we add to this. Let us know what you think would be your most interesting format. We're always trying to get our own viewers' opinions on this. So yeah, keen to hear thoughts.
Yeah, please do. And you might be right, GB. We've obviously spoken about it to death, but the solution, especially with this game having genuinely much better racing than last year's game, it might just be to actually do what we've all been talking about and get rid of purposeful safety cars, get rid of the intentional safety cars. Maybe that is all we need, so that the safety cars are natural when they happen. Realistically, with the skill spread we have in Creator Series, we probably will still get a safety car pretty much every single race, but it's not guaranteed anymore because it's not intentional. And they're a lot more natural. And like you said, that's just part of racing. If it happens power laps from the end, it happens power laps from the end. It's just, but it wouldn't be formulaic. It wouldn't be predictable.
Yeah, so let's come to a conclusion on this. So for the topic of the wild card, the all tire challenge, because it's been, because the whole topic was drivers kicking off about no safety cars, I do not think we should do all tire challenge with safety cars on. So for me, it is either bin the wild card if we don't like safety cars off, which it seems the majority don't. I think we did do a vote on that, and people decided. I'm pretty sure people decided that we need to turn them on next time. So and therefore, my final conclusion is get rid of the wild card. I don't want to do it again. I would do it again if we've got safety cars turned off, but I think turning them on just makes it complete gimmicky mess.
I think the key thing in these sort of situations where we completely see it one way, they completely see it another way. I think the ideal situation is to ideally find some sort of middle ground, right? And to be fair, someone did come up with a good idea. May have been me. I think it was me. I think it might have been me in collusion. What's the word? It's 20 past 11 at night, guys. My brain's not working. In collaboration, there's the word, with somebody else. That so you still have to do 3 laps on each set of tires, but safety car laps don't count as one of those laps. So you have to do 3 entire green flag laps on each tires. That kind of makes it better, because someone else says like, you're not allowed to put it under safety car, but that's just brings luck into it completely. Because if you happen to be on the full wet tires and a safety car gets called immediately, you obviously gain massively. So if you just pit for wets, you might get a bit unlucky that you then have to do 1 lap or whatever. But like still, I think that's more interesting. So you can have safety cars on, like a lot of people want, absolutely fine. But there's that strategic element whereby you can't just completely get rid of the bad tyres under the safety car and that's it, because then it just makes the wild card pointless in the first place. So I actually do think that's a good middle ground. It's a good compromise, and I think I would be keen to give that a go, because I actually really like this wild card. I think it's a fantastic wild card. The Rainbow Tyler Challenge is really fun, but I do agree, just it was rubbish in Abu Dhabi because there was a safety car, everyone got rid of them. So do you think that could work if you only green flag running laps count?
I think it's better than just having it than just saying safety cars on and that's it. I do think it's better, yes, but I don't think it solves the underlying issue that drivers are complaining about gaps and it being boring, because still, if then you have to, I don't know, someone's done their wet stops, but you haven't done your wet tires and you've got to then do it after the safety car, you've then got massive gaps again and you're relying on another safety car to bail you out. So look, it's better than nothing for that purpose. It's a compromise, sure. I don't think it's going to solve those drivers' issues though. So for me personally, keep it as it is, but I would rather bin it than see safety cars added. But I don't know, if there's going to be a compromise, fine. I just don't think that's going to fix it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think we talked about that enough now. I think we've definitely brought up to talk about purposeful safety cars. We've spoken about that one to death, but I know we broadly see eye to eye on Creator Series, but it's always interesting chatting to you, GB, because you made some valid points there, in particular about the 250% races and stuff. So it's always good to talk things out. And as GB said, do let us know down in the comments what you thought about all of this, including, of course, that 20 minutes ago, half an hour ago, we spoke about F1. But you can tell that our passion is F1 and gaming. So we combine those things. But anyway, guys, don't forget to follow us if you haven't already on YouTube or any of the audio platforms like, I don't know, Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon Music, whatever the good platforms you like listening or watching on. And we'll catch you next time.